Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, we are from group 9 and we are going to presentate about choosing appropriate materials, and here's our members. First, Ardhia Kharisma, Aulia Chandra Sari, Citra Eka Pramudya, and Zahra, Alikha, Ayunda, Yasmin. Let's just jump to the first topic. The first topic is why choosing appropriate materials is important. Materials plays an important role in teaching ESP, and materials writing is an indispensable element of ESP practice. For that reason, Hutchinson and Waters in 2010 contend that there exists already an established tradition in keeping which ESP teaching practitioners design and produce in-house teaching materials, which are generally, though not always, addressed to the learners of a particular institution. The main difference between general English courses and ESP courses is that the program are designed for a target group that needs English in order to communicate effectively in their professional environment. ESP practitioners have an important role in that process, since they designing the curriculum and provide the materials. We can select and be creative from what is available and modify activities to suit the learner's needs. On the other hand, regarding the teacher-generated material carrier, content is crucial. Once we have it, the tasks are created taking into account resources, group sizes, approaches to learning, and target activities that suit the learning environment.
Next is the purpose of choosing appropriate materials in ESP. Materials play a crucial role in ESP and have received considerable attention in the literature of the subject. They depend on the methodologies adopted, forming with them the interface between teaching and learning, or the points at which the course needs, objectives, and syllabus are made tangible to both learner and teacher. Materials are used to stimulate and support language instruction, and their design or adaptation is an important element of ESP teaching practice. Materials are used to scaffold learners' understandings of language use. This function implies that the materials provided to learners are meant to support the evolving control of different texts and engage them in thinking about and using the language. And then, materials also serve as models, since they provide representative samples of correct language use in various work and/or study situations. Last but not least, ESP materials also include reference materials, which, in contrast to the materials used for scaffolding and modeling, focus on knowledge rather than practice.
So move on, how to choose appropriate materials by doing materials evaluation. Why we evaluate materials? Evaluation concerns on the relative merit. There is no absolute good or bad, only degrees of fitness for the required purpose. Hutchinson and Waters in 2010 stated that evaluation is a method of judging the fitness of something for a particular purpose. Young Chen in 2015 points out that the first and most important step in designing an ESP course is needs analysis, which the target audience group and their needs should be well defined. Based on such analysis, a course syllabus is designed, only then the material production can follow. In other words, the structure of the course book, the organizing principle of the book, selection of input texts, organization of tasks, and finally the design of the script and teacher's notes need to be considered. The hardest part of creating course materials is coming up with tasks that have a clear goal and will facilitate effective language learning for students. In other words, it is essential to specify the content of a course book and to design tasks that will enable students improve every aspect of their language use and set them for effective communication in English. Instructional materials provide the basis for what learners will experience and learn. The teacher holds the power to either engage or demotivate learners. Therefore, instructional materials must be carefully planned, selected, organized, refined, and used.
The next slide is how to choose appropriate materials by doing materials evaluation. How do you evaluate materials? Evaluation is basically a matching process, matching needs to a viable solution. In order to match the needs and solution, the matching should be done as objective and as possible. It means that teachers have to look at the needs of students and the solution separately. In the final analysis, any choice will be made on the subjective because does not like the picture on the cover or dislike the functional syllabus, but it does not mean that the books does not suit in the needs of parties. Thus, the teacher should not let subjective too much influence their judgment in the early stage of analysis when evaluation materials to be taught.
Okay, the next one is process of evaluation can be divided into 4 major steps. The first steps is defining criteria. This is on what basis will you judge materials and which criteria will be more important. And then the second step is subjective analysis. And subjective analysis is what realization of the criteria do you want in your course. And then the third step is objective analysis. And this step is how does the material being evaluated realize the criteria. And then the last step is matching. How far does the material match your need? And then the selection of ESP. Materials should depend on the needs of the learners in relation to their future or present job. Materials should focus on the appropriate topics and include tasks and activities that practice the target skills areas. As Alice and Johnson emphasized, the choice of materials has a major impact on what happens in the course. This impact is determined by what kind of language the learners will be exposed to, and as a consequence, the substance of what they will learn in terms of vocabulary, structures, and function, because it has implications for the methods and techniques by which the learners will learn the subject or content of the materials is an essential component from the point of view of relevance and motivation. Okay, the next is a table that presented checklist of criteria for subjective and objective analysis. This is according to Hutchinson and Waters 2010. Okay, the first table is about audience. Okay, for the subjective analysis, the point is who is the learners. For example, age, nationality, work specialization, educational background. And then for the objective analysis, the point is who are the materials intended for. Then the second table is aims. For the point of subjective analysis is what are the aim of the course, and objective analysis, what are the aims of the materials. And the third table is content. For subjective analysis, the point is what kinds of language description do you require? Should it be structural, notional, functional, discourse based, or some other kinds? And then what language points should be covered? For example, what particular structures, function, vocabulary areas, and etc. And then what subject matter areas are required, for example, biology or business or etc. What level of knowledge should be assumed, for example, secondary high school, or university students. What types of topics are needed, for example, in medicine, hospital, organization, or medical technology. And then what treatment should the topics be given, for example, straightforward, factual, human interest, socio-cultural, and no corruption and no drugs. And for the objective analysis, what types of language description are used in the materials, what language points do the materials cover, and what are the subject matter areas assume level of knowledge and types of topics in the materials, and what treatment are the topics given. You can see the complete point in the book on page 84 and 85. Okay, and then there is a table about methodology for subjective analysis. The point is what kinds of exercise or tasks are needed, for example, comprehension or production, language or skill practice or use, one right answer or many possible right answers, and etc. And then for the objective analysis, the point is what kind of exercise or tasks are included in the materials. And then what in the subjective analysis, the next point, what teaching learning techniques are to be used, for example, lockstep, pair work, small group work, and etc. And for the objective analysis, what teaching learning techniques can be used with the material. So in the methodology is about the method that used for choosing appropriate materials. You can see the complete points in book on the page 86 until 87. And then the last, there is other criteria for subjective analysis. The point is what is the price range necessary. Objective analysis, what is the price. And then subjective analysis, when and in what quantity should the materials be available. And for objective analysis, when and how readily can the material be obtained. After the teachers make the checklist of above criteria, the teachers have to look for the widest spread of desired features and concentration in the areas they consider most important. After teachers make their choice and they use their findings to prepare any documentation needed for defending their decision on the analysis, whether everything is good or some parts need to be modified or replaced.
Next is the difficulties in making the course book. There is also some reasons for teacher manipulating their course book. 1. The course book doesn't include all the activities the teacher has already used successfully. 2. The course book material isn't proportionate to the time available for the course. And 3. The learner's knowledge and skills don't match that involved in course book. 4. The course book contains the content which is not suitable to language learners' current level of proficiency. 5. The course book doesn't contain strategies, ideas, skills, and knowledge that learners need. 6. The course book doesn't contain the principles that are taught by the teacher to be applied.
Okay, the next slide is about solution in the making course book. The first one is omit or add content. As a teacher, we can erase or adding the content that the student needs. The changes of the course book will be followed by the target audience group and their specific needs. And And the second one is change the sequencing of content. We need to arrange our course book that the student will be able to learn in this stage. Decide which concepts and subject aspect our curriculum will cover and how they interconnect with other subjects. And then change the presentation. To deliver to the content and the students would comprehend well, we need to find an appropriate way to deliver it, depending on the content. It should be best sequenced and cohesive, clearly showing the starting point and how the project develops. And then change the format. Of course, after we can change the content, the format will be changed also. It's based on what concepts and subjects aspect in our curriculum. And then add or omit monitoring. And the last is add or assessment. Process assessment and alternative assessment procedures which evaluates not only students' products but also how they have come to acquire the proficiency needed to produce them. Give ESP instructor as well as students the opportunity to improve outcomes when there is still time for so doing. Conclusion. There are some points can be summarized from material evaluation. We observe the materials evaluation as one way of exploiting of course design. The evaluation process should be systematically. Evaluation process is the best seen as matching exercise, matching our analyze with a viable solution. It can be save a lot of duplication of effort by possibly revealing materials that can provide all or part of our materials.